public sector. Belinda can often be found quoted in press for her expertise and also takes an active interest training senior executives in both Singapore and China to help them be digitally ready. Next up, we have Mr. Alex Phua. So, with over 10 years of experience in the consumer and F&B industry, and merger and acquisitions, business and digital transformation, valuation, restructuring, and general management, Mr. Alex's career started from a Big Four accounting firm to private equity firm and before joining Zoox Group. Welcome again. And next, we have Mr. Hugh again. Yes, so Mr. Hugh is our senior advisor of Avenevv as well as the managing director of Civil Sector. Welcome. And on the panelists, we have the moderator, Mr. Sim Che Guan. Yes, welcome, Mr. Guan.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for introducing us. And very good afternoon to our panel. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Alex, you're in home ground, so I see you're the most comfortable amongst all of us.
Thanks for having your event here.
Thank you. And we are touching on creativity. So looking at our panel, I think that's the reason why we got them here. From the outlook, I think we are very hip. Oh, no, we should say we. You guys are very hip people. Okay, so Hugh, how shall we start? Why don't you kickstart our next discussion?
Me?
Yeah.
I thought you're the MC.
I'm the moderator. I moderate.
I guess we can just jump in. I mean, the intent of this session is to just spark discussions, looking into how tech has become so much a part of our lives. I mean, who lives without tech these days? We can't. And I guess the question then is really, how does that make a difference how we do our events? And also in the venue space, because it's the same.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, how has that actually made the difference in terms of creativity, in terms of using the social media spaces, in terms of engagement,
right,
etc.
Well, I think the venue owners, so to speak. I mean, in the past, a lot of events would be held in places like maybe a conference room or a ballroom, but these days we are really moving out of those, out of that kind of space into a bigger picture. And look at this fantastic venue here. I mean, the music alone, although it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon already, I'm in the mood to party, So how do you think this venue actually can help us bring our events up to, another plateau?
I think technology has always been there, right? And the increased awareness of management and of companies has brought technology to another level, right? So there are a few very prominent technology for our industry, for example, right?
Right.
For example, last year when we had Zook out, we had implemented an RFID.
Okay.
In the past, consumers used to make credit card payments or cash payments at the counters.
Right.
Right now, they're just using RFIDs. And
right.
Our vendor is actually one of your partners right now. Yeah. So it helps with the
logistic, for example.
Productivity a lot.
Okay.
And also the other one that is very key is chatbots. Right. Chatbots are very important in the event space. It is less prominent now for restaurants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, when we have events, we have a lot of information kiosks,
mm-hmm.
right? Right now, if we have an AI-enabled chatbot, that will give consumers information a lot faster, and that's what consumers these days want. Yeah.
So I guess that's one way of being creative in how we execute the various events these days, huh? Okay. You see, I'm not very technology. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you've given us some specific example of creative factors. Anything else you may want to share with us?
Yeah. So right now, I'm also looking at FR. So I'm actually benchmarking against the Changi Airport Group. So
okay.
So like the best, right? So the Changi Airport Group, they have, for example, T4. from your ticketing to all the way to you board the airplane, it's only about 10-15 minutes.
Right.
In Zoom right now, the process is you have to buy the tickets, you have to queue,
Right.
buy the tickets, and then you come in. So in the future, I want to implement FR where you can just use your facial biometrics to come in. And with that, the facial biometrics also can give us the CRM for us to do targeted marketing.
Wow. That's interesting, but it's also very scary.
It's scary. The
That's the
challenge
world
of
we
this
live in.
is the government, the IMDA, there are a lot of roadblocks still.
Oh, okay, okay.
So for individuals, you can do it, but if you want to do a mass FR technology, that is only allowed in airports, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're actually saying that we can be creative, but yet we can still have obstacles along the way.
Yes, we still have obstacles along the way. So you have to
Did
lobby.
we release Chichuan already? Can we?
Do we have anyone from the government still with us?
Melinda, what about yourself? How do you think we can actually, improve ourselves? Moving ahead, using technology, and yet not losing the creative aspect of our events.
I think in the first place, the word technology is used very loosely.
Yes.
End of the day, I believe there's only a tool for us to get from the means to the end. So I think ultimately we need to look at why the digital landscape will somehow never replace real events.
Actually, right.
And that key factor is people. So if we look at having spaces where people can congregate and spend time together, share information, and also have a good time together, then we need to understand that end of the day, events will never deter from experiences. So when we look at how technology can play a part in that, is how does it enhance the experience. However, today consumers are a lot more discerning and expectations are a lot higher. They want to know a lot before the event happens, and they want to be engaged after the event happens. So even 10 years ago, the word omni-channel has been around the industry. People have been talking about it. But if you look at especially events in Singapore and many parts of Asia, the idea of omni-channel experiential events has never been very deeply rooted in Singapore. So when we look at, let's say, something simple like social media,
Right.
you'll find that it is often used as a marketing tool
Right.
for events.
Right,
It's
right,
not
right.
used as an experiential tool.
Right.
So for example, when you design the concepts or the creative concepts of an event, how do you use digital tools and technology to help you bring your audience into the event, not market about the event, but into the event
The experiential part of it.
correct, way before the event happens.
So, coming from someone like yourself, who is of course, very experienced, how would you actually do that? How would you bring that across?
For example, right, based on the user groups, let's say we're talking about people who are in their 20s, then very naturally most events will use Instagram as a means to share information, right?
Right.
How do you, let's say, do your event teasers and the experience part about your events, maybe in places like Insta Stories? Get a poll going on what people want to see about the event. Get people trying to buy into the idea, participate in the decisions that are being made in the entire experience before they come.
But wouldn't that be actually part of the marketing part?
No, it's not.
It's not.
Marketing means the event is fixed. My activities are done, and I'm just publishing information about it.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
if you have taken that into a consideration, a point of conceptualization is part of the creativity. That means you're not really using it only as an amplification tool, but rather you're using it as part of your entire event experience.
Okay, so which brings me to another question. Obviously, you wouldn't have everybody embracing the idea.
Yeah.
You may have two
Yeah.
camps of people.
Of course.
One was like, okay, let's do that. That sounds really, really good. But you may have some people who are a bit more old-fashioned minded. They want to do it the what you call the test and trial way. So how do you go about convincing?
In the first place, I think, of course, such a tactic is not suitable for all kind of events. So, for example, if you're talking about a healthcare forum, then it's very different from, having such a cool event in Zouk. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's essentially very, very, very different.
Right,
So
right.
it boils down back to your audience as well, the expectations of the event. What kind of takeaway you want people to feel at the end of the event, and also with a lot of the technology of post-event engagement, it comes to a lot of the CRM components that
Right.
Alex just shared. It's like, how do you get people to sign on to your next event? How do you get them engaged even after that? Are there activities like some of the VR experiences that are being shown over some of the booths there? How do you get them to take away like engagements that they can share post-event? It's like, end of the day, what is the objective of it? That we can use technology to enhance all of those objectives. So there are VR, there are AR, there's social media. I mean, there are also tools like what we call IPS, hotspots, like indoor positioning systems for very large-scale events. You get to understand where are hotspots, where should activities be placed, how should you engage with the people who are very particularly interested in a certain booth, for example, just by identifying hotspots. So, and with the IPS system and RFID, basically you're able to tell exactly who, when, what they're interested in, how do I engage with them thereafter. So those are sophisticated information.
Very.
But my point is, don't let the word technology bulk you down. Like, decide who are your people, what do you want to do with the event. Then pull in like someone from the technology space or creative space to work with you to find out what are some of these creative solutions that you can play with to bring your event to the next level.
I see. Back to Alex. Being a club, if I'm the boss of Zouk, I think at the end of the day, I'm just concerned about, the figures. All right, just bring me the crowd, make the money, and keep the brand name going. So, would you say the management is also very into this, moving along with technology and all that?
Yeah, so Zouk was acquired by Genting in 2015,
Right.
So we are the spearhead of digital innovations in the whole group. So we are very focused on digital solutions. In fact, just very recently, I implemented an AI-enabled e-menu in one of our restaurants. And the point that Belinda brought out was very relevant because one of my floor staff came up to me and she asked, "Hey, Alex, with this AI-enabled e-menu, am I going to lose my job?" Right? Which is a very
Good question.
practical
Good question.
that you asked.
Yes.
And my answer to them is, of course not. You will get a lot more time engaging our customers instead of serving them the mundane tasks. Right? So the constant reassurance and engagement with the staff is key to assuring them. Yeah, but technology, it has to come. It has to be implemented.
Actually, what Alex mentioned earlier is very much in line with what we discussed earlier on as well, isn't it? In the first panel, whereby we say the technology moving ahead is well and good, but it's still something very, very hard in that sense. You still need to have that soft aspect. So that's where maybe your staff will come in, like you said, you won't lose your job because you'll still be there engaging the customers and giving them the kind of service that is more has got human touch, so to speak. All right. So I think it's good we actually move together,
Yeah, I mean, it's a clear consensus of where tech comes in. And I think it's very, very clear, for people who are pretty much in the know, that tech isn't going to replace humans. It's just going to change things around. It's going to move things and move the parts. But at the end of the day, it's not going to say, oh, gosh, that's it, And tech really is just a component in which we have to look at to assess what it can do better for us. It is not meant to replace, like what we discussed earlier, creativity, ideas, innovation. That still comes from stimulating minds. Then we come and say, okay, now what can tech do? Help us achieve some of these objectives and goals.
So in other words, you still need a group of people with really creative minds like Belinda to sit and have this.
You wait until I build a robot that can replace that.
God forbid, but I mean, if that's the case, we really will be phased out, lah. Huh? All right. So, well, back to Hugh again. I think, would you have in mind any recent cases whereby, it's a good blend of technology as well as having creative people knocking their heads together and put something together?
I mean, I just came back from a trip to the US, and it always opens my mind to see possibilities. Just because I think they have a lot more people in the industry cracking their heads, and they have a lot more opportunities to test. And I think the most successful cases are always where tech is used very intelligently rather than being forced into it for the purpose of saying
doing it.
We just need to have tech. So really looking at a conventional event, whether it's in a festival space, a party, or whatever it may be, and then looking through the whole line and saying, hey, here's an area where the human touch isn't needed. And people are going to just have a better experience because tech can do it faster, better, more efficiently. And then creatively crafting it into the moments. And so that experience, like you said, FR or whatever it may be, and people are growing up with that. Apple has that on their phones, etc. It becomes such a convenience that you would say that's a great thing to have. It's done right. And when you come into the space, like in Zoom, for example, then all the other elements come into play as well. So when I was in the US and I saw somebody exhibiting, and he had decided that he didn't want to have hard builds, which is very traditional, conventional style of doing things. So he went and took a lot of screens, projection screens, a lot of new things, which can come in multiple sizes, shapes, curved walls, etc. And then created many animated clips out of it. So the booth became an interactive piece where people were drawn to, people were cleverly integrated into the experience. They were no longer visitors. They were actually part of the whole experience of the brand that they were trying to do. Yet to these people, right, they would be able to sell the proposition that they're an environmentally friendly organization. Nothing was going to be thrown away, disposed. Everything would be just utilized. So it was very engaging. It was the ability for them to bring their brand very strongly across. Visitors became part of the show. And people totally were immersed in it, and they totally enjoyed it. And so a typical exhibition booth became like a playground. and people just got immersed in it.
Which is what we're trying to do here actually at our Event Tech Show. So I strongly encourage our guests to move around, visiting the various booths. We've got more than 20 partners here this afternoon. As a matter of fact, right now, I'm just going to remind our friends out there to download the app, Actigage, spelled ACTIGAGE. All right, I've already done so. And it's a platform for all our event enthusiasts who actually network and lots of things in there. So please download the app. And if you need help, my colleagues will be at the information counter to render, whatever aid you need, okay? Now, but Belinda, what do you expect? Where do you expect the industry to move forward? What do you think?
I think
in order to strike the right balance.
I think in the first place, the event industry has many verticals. So it's a very hard answer to give because there are the lifestyle type of events, and then there are the, conventions and meetings and exhibitions, the MICE type of events.
And the party ones.
Yeah, and then there are the kind of corporate branded roadshows type of events. So I think it's very hard to say where each one will go because they are all quite different in terms of answers. But I think generally, across the entire marketing industry, marketing is more becoming of a science rather than a creative field. So the creativity, you can have great, interesting concepts, but data, so the congregation of big data, that requires analytics. It requires you to collect a lot of information. Like he's collecting biometric data. And the use of more artificial intelligence to do predictions and stuff like that before you actually get an event planned out, because to run an event it takes a lot of money. But if I can have accurate data to have accurate prediction, then I will know whether or not my money is worth putting into this event. So it's going to be a lot more science rather than a creative or an arts field.
In other words, there's still a lot of room for us to explore.
Yeah, a lot of room, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, rather than just to sit back and lament that, it's not happening.
Yeah, because currently today, if you go let's say there's World Expo, 10,000 people attend it. How much of that data of that 10,000 attendees are actually being collected and used appropriately and re-engaged and sell them the next event, or have related brands or related businesses that can complementary sell them. So the way event makes money could change. Because with data, you can actually have a lot of different types of partnerships, a lot of different types of new business models that could be born out of it. It's just that how do you then draw the line between security, like protection of privacy, and the data that you're collecting? So it is a challenge around the world, not just within the event industry, but you can see the entire world definitely moving towards that direction.
So Alex, would you see the same kind of challenge that you guys will be facing?
Yeah, so I think the success of every event, it still boils down to the content.
Yes, of course.
The content.
Of course.
In terms of people, with all these events coming in, that improves the customer experience. From a event professional point of view, I think the soft skills will need to be elevated a lot more, right, because of technology. From a technology point of view, I think there's a lot of AR being implemented now, AI, FR, even live streaming. I'll give you an example of our industry. So one of the biggest music festivals in the world, it is like Tomorrowland, Coachella. They gather about 200 to 400,000 people live on that in that music festival itself. Recently, there was a very interesting event that happened. One international DJ, he performed in a game. So the game is called Fortnite, right? And he performed in the game. And with that, right, they live streamed it, and they had 11 million visitors to the event. So this live streaming, these technologies, people will see it two ways. One is, if I live streaming, I'm giving it free access to people, then why would they come to my event anymore?
Right.
But the other point of view is, it's a great marketing tool. Because people experience it, the next year they will want to come back. And in fact, it is proven by numbers that once you do this, right, the next year when people experience it behind the computers, they will want to be in the space itself to experience the event themselves.
So it's a little like what the Chinese say, 放长线钓大鱼.
I'd like to add
Right?
on to Alex. I think he made a few valid points. For example, you talk about concerts, for example. There is a K-pop stars app in Korea called VLive, right? But there are certain parts of VLive are actually paid. So, for example, if you want to watch a BTS concert in Brazil, you would have to buy online tokens, and then you pay for it. But you can actually watch it online, the live concert. So, which means that if the stadium could only be restricted to 70,000 people, now you could actually be selling tickets to 700,000 people. Now that is fascinating, right? And then you can also do the live concert engagement with online audience. So and that would then enhance that entire experience. So what I think the biggest, not say biggest, but one important need for the entire industry is not to be so silo. Because I think traditionally in the different marketing verticals, where you're just talking about events or advertising or PR, they're quite in a silo. And they are very, very good at what they do, but they're so specialized that they don't actually have enough exposure to the rest of the world. And I think that with technology, you may not need to know how to do it, but you need to know what it does, what exists, what it can do, and who is out there to help you to do it. I think that that kind of constant lifelong learning is extremely essential.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, well, Alex, I look forward to being part of Zook-out from the comfort of my bedroom next year, yeah? My mom would be very shocked. What am I doing in the bedroom?
Bring your own party in the room to join in the rest.
Okay.
Cheaper alcohol.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
go
But remember to buy before 10:30, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Belinda, Alex, and Hugh for joining us here this afternoon. I think we've had a very interesting chat, and I really hope that our guests and our event enthusiasts, you've actually you're going to walk away with some, some thoughts from as a result of our little chit chat session here. So, shall we thank our panel of speakers with a nice round of applause? Thank you very much, guys. Belinda, Alex, and Hugh. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.